Welcome back to my channel, Thrifty Day. Today's episode is a flip through of a custom journal I recently completed. I cannot wait to share it with you because it is probably one of my favorite journals I've ever made. I'm also going to show you how I wrap it up to send off. Hello, welcome back to my channel, Thrifty Day. My name is Leah. I am the creator behind Thrifty Day. Today's episode is going to be a flip through of a custom journal. I do put a custom journal listing in my Etsy shop once a month. And that way I have plenty of time to dedicate to making this a beautiful handcrafted custom creation just for you. And I also have a tier over on my Patreon that is for a custom journal. So there are two ways to get a custom journal from me during the month, and those are the two spaces. And once they're filled for the month, they're filled, but the next month they do reopen. So this was for the month of April over on Etsy. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you a little bit about what you can expect and how the process goes. The person who ordered this particular journal loved the Cinderella little critters, the mice and the birds and the helpers. They also said their favorite color was blue, and she also loved purple. So I wanted to add a lot of those sort of themes throughout her journal. This particular journal is about 8.5 by a little over 7. It has 5 signatures and the spine is about 3 inches. It's a rounded spine, so it looks like a real book. And it does come with this beautiful handcrafted removable charm. Let me take that out so you can see it a little bit better. It obviously fits into the theme. There's a little pink bow in a glass vial there with some vintage lace, a little tiny Cinderella Friends book, a bow, some tiny handmade spools of, thematic thread and little bows and keys and a little hanger. And of course, a tiny pair of scissors. So that is the removable charm. I'm just gonna set this to the side for now so that we can get into the flip through. Of course, it's all handcrafted, handmade, and I put a tiny little mouse right on the back. So it's a beautiful, heavy, durable journal. This is the kind of journal I use in my own personal journaling. And so I can promise you can add a ton and it will last forever. So I did add ephemera throughout. So I'll show you a little bit. There are flip out pages. Almost everything in this journal, all of the pages, if it isn't vintage, if it isn't cardstock, it's vintage. So this is all vintage advertising, vintage ledger paper, more beautiful color, vintage advertising. All of the ephemera is either vintage, like this blue chip piece, or handmade, or there are modern pieces as well. These are vintage workbook pages, vintage wrapping paper, vintage lined paper, and as you can see, there is just removable ephemera throughout the entire journal. So that's a vintage playing card, a little vintage book page, and it's all washi taped or clipped to the pages, so you don't have to keep it where it is. And once you take it all out, you'll see there will just be so much room to grow. So I'll just keep kind of quickly flipping through so you can see. I just love this vintage advertising so much. I put a lot of care. This is also vintage ledger paper. I love it because it's orange. I put a lot of care to make sure that the theme is very closely matched. Like all of the storybook pages I used are very purposeful because they're also critters and things like that. So here's some more ephemera. I'll just kind of flip through quickly. These are from a vintage Cinderella storybook. They're just the words. That was all I was really able to salvage out of that book. So I glued them throughout the journal here. And then of course, all of the tabs are vintage. Well, most of them are vintage. And there's also a vintage doily and vintage napkins throughout, vintage sheet music. These are stickers. There are also envelopes throughout, which I tucked in lots of little goodies. Again, I tried to keep them thematic, so these have a sewing theme. And that's a beautiful envelope. It is not vintage, but I think it could definitely be used in journaling process. And I did put some Cinderella pages throughout this journal. I tried to make sure that they were the ones that the mice were on though. Here's another beautiful postcard that is Cinderella. Love that. I try to do some fold out pages. There's so much room to grow. You could certainly use this journal for years and years to come. It could become a keepsake and something that is very special to your family. A vintage phonics book. These are smaller vintage book pages. This is actually a digital copy of the vintage image that's on the front. This is the actual vintage image from a very old Disney book. So I went ahead and scanned it, and I'm going to also send it to her digitally, but I went ahead and printed one for her to have as well. These are some beautiful floral print stickers, and again, a lot of that beautiful ledger paper. And like I said, there's a bunch of beautiful tabs all throughout the journal. And there's more of the little mice on there, more vintage critter paper. I love that. This is just a little handmade piece with some of those extra pieces I had. You can just put little goodies in that bag. There's also a few dyed pieces of paper in here. This is so cute, hosiery. Oh my gosh, I just love vintage things. Lots of pockets. This is a vintage, what is it? Film envelope. Remember when we used to drop off our film? Yeah, so these are really fun. I just put some stickers in there, some vintage advertising for her to use in her journaling process. And that's just a really pretty piece of floral paper. Some vintage game pieces, more goodies in those beautiful pockets, a vintage library card. This is actually a vintage playing card, but I used it as a tab. Some beautiful textured paper, more little critters, Cinderella. And so, yeah, if you have any questions, there they are again, those little mice. Feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. If you have questions about the process or anything about this journal, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. You could even message me on Etsy. You could message me on Instagram. I'm happy to chat with you. And if you'd like to join my Patreon, all of that information is linked below. There are several tiers over on Patreon that you can join, starting at as little as $5 a month. And every single tier from me on Patreon does get Happy Mail. So even if you're not at the very expensive tiers, you will still receive Happy Mail from me. And here's some cute gold corners. And that is the end. They are all lined. This journal is lined in this beautiful paper. And of course, there's a library card with my stamp right on the front. So I had a wonderful time making this journal. It was such a wonderful, fun process for me. I loved adding all of those beautiful tabs. I love tabs in my journal. The really beautiful thing about these tabs is that I'd staple them on with gold staples. So if you don't like them, you can absolutely remove them. They're not like stitched on so that you'd have to ruin the page to remove them. So that is that. The journal is so much fun and I hope she loves it. I'm also going to send, as you can see, a lot of these were from her pockets and cardstock that I made the journal. So I thought I would send those her way. I'm also going to send some of these beautiful vintage book pages. I love the coloring and I think these would be so beautiful to use as backgrounds. And so I'm going to send a pack of those. I'm also going to send, oh, I already washi it, but here, I'll show you anyway. I'm also going to send this pack of fabric remnants. Many times I will add fabric remnants to the sides of pages. But once I started doing that, it didn't call for that. But because it's something I do often, I thought I would send them her way. So I picked a bunch of prints I thought kind of would mirror and look pretty in this journal. Of course, this one is Cinderella. There's some beautiful blues and floral prints. I thought this one would look really pretty. So I just tried to pick a lot of colors that I thought would look lovely in this journal. So that way she has some beautiful scraps to work with. And that could just sort of complete her journaling process. Reseal that up. So I thought I would send all of these little goodies her way. And I think what I will do is just use a piece of this beautiful brown tissue paper and some pretty washi tape. If you know me, you know that I think that packaging orders is like a love language for me. It's a part of my job that I really, really enjoy. I really enjoy wrapping up your orders in a decorative and purposeful way. I do try to make sure every piece I send you is one that you could reuse in your journaling process. So if you wanted to reuse these washi pieces or even this brown paper, you could also do that. I printed this really sweet image. I was originally going to use it as a page, but then I thought, you know what? I will let her be creative with that because it is just super duper sweet. And I'm just gonna wrap it up really pretty. And so it's like a little present with some extras. And I just hope that this journal is something that she will be so excited to receive, because I'm so very grateful anytime I am trusted with a custom order. That really means so much to me. And so I guess packaging it pretty is just sort of my way of saying thank you. So I'm also going to add this sweet little flower. And then I do also want to add this tag because of course it has my branding on it. But I think what I'm going to do is I would like to find a little, well, I have a key. I think the bow was kind of my, oh, here's the bow. I don't know, what should I do? I actually think I'm gonna do the little bow. And I'm going to get a little bulb pin out of all my little metal pieces I have by my desk. And I'm going to just put it right here on the front. And then I will wrap everything up very carefully to send on her way. I will wrap up everything so that it arrives safely. And I'm super excited with this. I'm just so happy with how it came out. And every journal is completely sealed, so they'll last for years to come. If you have any questions, please let me know because I would be happy to answer them. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have a really good day. Bye.